Hello, everyone. My name is Lizzie,
And I'm May.
and we are Mayhem Mamas.
We're on this channel. We talk about what we want because it's our channel.
Yay! And this is our first episode.
Yay, it's our
So we get to
baby.
talk about favorite subjects.
Us.
And yes, us. And tonight, that is what we're talking about. We are talking about us because we grew up in similar lifestyles, families that both fathers worked for a branch of the military. So we have a lot of the same experiences, values, morals, religious backgrounds. And so in the beginning, when we first met, that is something that definitely was a huge connection for us. Kind of felt like that we knew each other or had known each other
Right,
for a long time instead of just for a short period of time.
right,
So tonight we decided that we were going to do this episode titled Lizzie May in the USA
right,
because we wanted to show how these experiences over the years of living in different states, different countries, traveling had shaped and molded and affected our opinions of the United States, our pride and love of our country, which we both share.
right. Definitely. It also,
S-
plays on later in your adulthood in life too as well. Um, which a lot of people do not realize, which I think is very
Exactly.
interesting too.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it really does. You you get this sense of such pride for your country because you're sacrificing not living here.
Right.
And when you don't live here and you're used to all these freedoms that we have here, and we forget what kind of freedoms we have here, or
Mhm.
people don't really realize it, especially if you've never lived out of this country. You
Right.
sometimes don't realize what a wonderful country we actually do live in. Even with
Right.
everything that's going on right now, all the hatred, all the political things going on, we still live in America and it is fabulous.
Right. And before you click off, just know this is not a political rant about what's going on. This is not about Republican, Democrat, liberal, any of that, because I
No,
am not a political person. I don't
no,
follow it. I can't understand a lot of it. I don't follow a lot of it just because it's annoying and irritating. So, this is not about that, and we're not going to make it about that. And we're not going to make it about that in the comments. So, this is just about how we grew up and how our lives are or were growing up in a military family. That's all in our live for this country. That's all it's about. It's not about the president, the vice president, the kids, the
right,
son,
right, right. It's not political.
the
This is
dog,
not political.
the
So
lawn.
we both right, exactly. We both were born in the United States, but we started moving pretty early on. How old were you when you started moving around?
I believe I was in first grade, back early 80s.
Okay. Yeah, I was a little bit older than you, but not much.
Mhm.
Um, and we started moving around typically every couple of years. Sometimes it can be longer than that. It just kind of depends on what your tour is. But we were both kind of raised as third culture kids, which is basically that we lived in another country at a young age and was molded kind of and influenced by another culture.
Right. And let me tell you, growing up overseas, anytime you have to pay to go to the bathroom, you definitely are proud to be an American. I promise you
Absolutely.
that.
Yes, absolutely you are. For sure. I can just remember, you know, getting on the airplane to come back. to the summer because we would always come back, no matter really no matter where we lived,
Mhm.
where we were stationed at. My
Right.
dad, we always came home for like summer
Yes.
breaks.
Uh-huh.
We tried to come home at Christmas time if that was possible, but we
Right.
always came back for summer. And my dad may not have been able to stay for very long, but my
Right.
mom and us kids always did. And so we would land, we always flew into JFK,
Yep.
and you would land and it was just cheers like,
Right.
"We're in
Yep.
America, yay!" And
Mhm.
as a young kid, you almost don't even really know why you're doing that. You
Right.
just know you almost have that feeling of being a little kid on a sports team, and you're like, "Yay, we're playing on our home field,"
Right.
like you
Exactly.
just know you're home and you're so glad to be there.
Right.
So that's kinda how for me, the pride started.
Yep.
What
Yep.
about what same for you?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. We lived in Germany for I can't remember if it's 3 or 4 years, but we would fly into JFK, and it's like the whole plane cheered when we got
Yes,
to
yes, yes.
JFK.
Yeah. We've
Yep.
done something wonderful.
I know. And when you're in second grade, you're like, okay, yay, we landed
Yeah.
safely.
Right, right. You're just going with it and
Yeah,
you're feeding off of everyone else. But
right,
I can just remember that feeling of being so prideful that this was my country.
right, right,
We lived overseas in a third world country, and it was a definite experience. Not to say it was a bad one. None of my experiences were negative. I
right,
wouldn't take anything for all the time that we lived overseas, that we traveled overseas, the experiences, the things that I got to see
right,
is a blessing, and I would not take anything for that.
right,
But there again, like I said before, it was a sacrifice.
right,
And for us, we learned what sacrificing was at a young age because we realized that as other families that work for or the military or work for a branch of the military as civilians um, realize that it's not just that particular person that has the job with them that's sacrificing, it's the entire family.
exactly, exactly. It wasn't until the sixth grade, I think, that I realized not everybody grows up the way I did.
Right.
I thought it was strange that kids had gone to school together since preschool,
Uh-huh.
because that's about the time my dad started looking into retiring, and so we started looking into buying our forever home, and we started staying with my grandparents, and so I started going to the elementary school down the street and making friends and whatnot. And they're like, oh, yeah, I've known this person since, you know, I was born or day one of my life. And I'm like, my gosh, the longest person I've known someone is what, 2 years, 3 years? And
Right. Yeah.
I've never seen him since.
Yes, yes, and it puts a sense of people one of the questions I always get from most people that I talk to and they realize that, "Oh, wow, you've lived all these places and how often did you move and you've been in how many schools?"
Mm-hmm.
Those types of things is you get it in your head early as a child that, well, I'm only gonna be here for 2 years.
Right.
So, 1, I've gotta hurry up and make friends.
Yep.
And 2, you can't get too attached because you know that
Right.
that's not gonna last because you're gonna be moving on.
Right.
And that sounds a little bit, like, harsh,
Mm-hmm.
and it sounds a little bit, I don't know, maybe uncaring or, "Oh my gosh, how could you do that to your children?" But we didn't know any different.
No. Nope. That was how we grew up.
And so that just shows you how kids can adjust
Yes.
quickly
Yes.
to situations that sometimes adults never adjust to.
Right.
Kids are extremely resilient.
Yes, they are.
And then when you get that in your blood, it's hard to lay roots down and stay somewhere.
It is extremely difficult. Extremely difficult. I feel the need for change every 3 years. I feel like I still need to pack up everything
Uh-huh.
and go somewhere.
Yes. Yes. You're never really
You're
home.
restless.
Yeah, you're never really home. When
Right.
people ask me, "Where are you from?" And even though I've lived where I am now for years now,
Mhm.
when someone asks me, "Where are you from?" I think about it and I say, "Well, I was born in
Right.
this state, but
Right.
that's not really where I'm from
Right. You
because
don't
I'm
really have
from."
an answer.
No, you don't have an answer because you're kind of from everywhere.
Right.
Everywhere that you've set down and planted some roots and made relationships. So that's not an easy question. And
Right.
people kind of look at you like, well, is what's going on with you that you can't tell me,
Right. Are you in
where
the
you're
witness protection program? Are
right,
you
exactly. Yeah, exactly, exactly. So,
And going back to any kind of place to get closure, where I grew up in Germany is no longer a civil as a military base. It's now back they gave it back to the Germans, I think in the 90s
right.
or late 80s. So, even if I was to get a plane ticket to go back and look to see where I came from or where I used to live or where I used to go to school, I mean, that's not really an option for me because I don't know. I haven't learned German. I didn't learn German back then. I have a horrible attitude sometimes when it comes to things that I don't think is important. But I wouldn't have English speaking people around. And also, I know in the early 80s, if you did not speak German, uh, they were not going to make any attempt whatsoever to speak English. Even if they knew how to speak English, you needed to learn how to speak German because you were in their
Yes,
country,
exactly.
which, look, I totally get. I
Yes.
don't disagree with them.
No, you needed to be making attempts to learn their language to communicate
Exactly.
with you. They're not
Exactly.
going to communicate with you unless at least they can see that you're trying. And I
Exactly.
think that definitely is kind of par for the course
Mhm.
in every country except our country.
Right.
Just like I said, we lived in the Middle East. We lived in Saudi Arabia, and I couldn't go back there because it was a closed country
Yeah.
until just recently has
Right.
it been opened up to tourism, but it was a closed country, so nobody you just couldn't get on a plane and hop and say, "Oh, I'm going back here." You
Right.
you couldn't get in. So for me, that was difficult. And then, kind of the same scenario, if you wanna get around, you need to be trying to make an effort. You're in their country. You need to make an effort to communicate in their language. I
Correct.
think a lot of times us as, Westerners, people from, this side of the world that speak English, and we're a country that doesn't so much promote bilingual skills, and
Right.
that's a whole different subject that we're not gonna get in here to on this one.
Right.
But we tend to think that, "Oh, it's English, everybody speaks English."
Right.
No,
No.
not everybody does.
Nope.
And, we're a guest in their country, you need to make an effort.
Right. And you know, even though the 80s was probably what, just like 20 years ago? it I mean it was in some Germans' mind not that far from World War II, and
Correct.
some Germans were not real excited to see Americans in their country.
Correct, yes.
So they doubly were not going to go out of their way to make it easy on some Americans.
No,
So,
and especially your older German people.
uh-huh.
And I have to say, we visited and vacationed in Germany, and there were some lovely, lovely people there. We had
Mhm.
great experiences there.
Yes.
So please don't take that we're dissing
Nope. I
the
loved it.
German people. No,
Loved it.
we both loved our experiences that we had in that country. But it's just like any country that you go to, you're
And
gonna
I
have
don't blame
people.
them.
Right, no, of course not.
I don't blame them.
You
I,
you
you know,
you know, it's gonna be the same in any country you go to. Even in America, you have people that aren't gonna open their arms up and, welcome you with,
I just have a, you're in my country, at least try to talk to me with my language on that front.
yes,
That's
yes,
at least try. you
yes,
know, as
yeah,
far as the war is concerned, I wasn't even born then, so I can't, help you with that fact, but everybody's entitled to their opinions and their views and, you know, what have you. So I can't comment on that fact either. I wasn't around then. Um, so they can have their thoughts and opinions and feel the way they
about that.
feel. Yeah. So,
Exactly. From their experiences and what they went through,
right.
and that's none of my business,
Right.
but, I did enjoy our vacationing that we did in that country. It's an
Yep.
absolutely gorgeous country, very, very rich in history, and,
Absolutely.
I loved it.
Yep.
But
Yep.
as we move forward here with our conversation about this pride that we have for our country, another thing that I can say is that coming back here to the United States as a late teenager, young adult, when I went to college, we would have discussions in classes. Wouldn't even have to be really. I'm not talking about like history classes or anything like that. I'm just talking about general discussions about the United States and maybe something that they're just not in agreement with that's going on, or just people just complaining about this and that and the other. It kind of upset me because I'm thinking to myself, why are you saying those things? Do you not realize how bad things could be?
Right.
Like, we have so many freedoms in this country that we take for granted that a lot of other countries can't even imagine having.
Right.
And so, in some ways, that caused me some issues and problems kind of fitting in and communicating with people that had
Right.
not been out of the United States.
Right.
Did
Right.
you find that problem?
You have, yeah. Um, One of the issues I will say I'm very extremely happy is when the boys and the men came back from Desert Storm, they were greeted by civilians and other veterans from the other wars and whatnot with huge open arms and support. I felt like America rallied around them and welcomed them back. They didn't protest. They didn't protest them. They didn't spit in their face. They didn't throw paint
Right,
on them. They gave them the welcome they deserved. Now, whether they believed in the war or didn't, that was a separate issue and they kept it separate.
right.
Vietnam soldiers did not get the same courtesy, and
Oh,
it
it was horrible.
makes me absolutely sick. I wasn't
Yes,
there, I wasn't even born yet, but I feel horrible. And to think that my father had to come back to that type of situation just breaks my heart. Just
yes,
kills me. It was
yes. You've
not
got
my dad's
these.
fault.
No, you've got these young boys, and I'm saying young boys. We're
Yeah,
talking 18.
yes,
I mean, come
if
on.
that. Because I
Right.
knew a lot of them were tr- lying about their age to get in.
Yes. You've got these young boys, just kids,
Yes,
going off to fight in these horrendous wars for our country, for us to have freedoms in our country.
right.
And whether you agreed with that war and our involvement
Mhm.
in it really shouldn't have anything to do with how we're treating our veterans that are coming back.
Right. They are
We,
only doing what they signed up to do.
absolutely, they're following orders and they're
Mhm.
putting their life on the line.
Mhm.
It's just really, real. It's just sad. It's sad because we know. what type of sacrifices not only are they making by going off to war and putting their lives on the line every single moment that they're gone, but even the people that are not going to war, if they're going away, they're being separated from their families, from their wives, from their kids. I know when my dad was in Vietnam, I was just a baby,
Right.
and he's missing out on me and
Right.
my brother growing up and the things that we're doing, and my
Right.
mom is
All your
back.
firsts.
Yeah, and my mom's back here holding keeping the home fires burning, so to speak, being a
Yeah.
single mom,
Right.
doing everything that she had signed up to do with my dad as a partner.
Right.
And so I
Right.
think we're just really easily um kind of put in this mind frame of, well, what do you mean you're sacrificing? You're not doing anything. You're here. Well, no, it's the whole family. The whole family
Yes.
sacrifices. And not every time is that a bad sacrifice. I'm not
Right.
saying that.
Right.
Like we've said, we wouldn't take anything for our traveling and our things that we've got to do, living in other countries and seeing other cultures and other religions and how things work. Those are not negative things I'm saying, but it
Right.
still is a sacrifice because I'm not in the United States. I'm away from my grandparents, my cousins, my
Mhm.
friends, my home, my school, um, just
Yeah.
all freedoms of
Right.
being in our country.
Yeah, you had positives of knowing that you were going to have food on the table. You were always going to have a roof over your head. Military families were good at kind of like a small town. I know we lived on post a lot. So we had our post families who, by the time you walked down the street, if you did something wrong and you got home, it was a network of families that you, boy, your
Mama was
mama
going to
was going to
know.
know about it by the time you got home. And
Exactly.
so, but the military helped out, and they all stuck together and helped each other. And so you did know that you were going to have food and clothes and a ride to school and a warm blanket at night. But absolutely, your mom was a single mom, and she didn't sign up for all the stress of raising children by herself, paying the bills by herself. Not only to mention the emotional struggle that she has because your dad is doing TDY, or, out in the field, or, God forbid, these women who have to hold things down while their husbands are away for the Gulf War, or,
Right on the front lines, actually
right.
fighting these battles. The
Yes,
stress of knowing, hey, is my husband going to make it home?
exactly. And, I look at now compared to then, thank God they had access at times to the internet and they could face chat or stream or whatever it is that they do. That didn't happen. My dad had
No.
a tape recorder at times that he would record cassette tapes with my mom, and they would do that, and sometimes the mail would take forever.
Yes.
And so,
It always took forever.
yes,
Like, I can remember it taking, like, 3 to 4 weeks to get things.
right,
I mean, and I'm not talking, like, massive packages, I'm just
right,
talking about a letter.
yes.
It was, "Don't expect anything coming soon, because that's not gonna happen."
And so,
And
Mom, I was reading some letters just from Mom being in Fort Leonard Wood and Dad being in Germany. And, Mom was writing almost every day, and she's like, well, I didn't get a letter today. And then the next letter is, I didn't get a letter today. And then the next letter is, well, I got 4 letters today,
Right,
So,
yeah, you never knew
yeah,
how that was gonna, pan out for you.
right. So,
And the other thing is you're back when I was, overseas, we didn't have cell phones, but another thing we didn't have is every time you got on the phone, it's a long distance
oh,
speak,
yeah.
and let me tell you, I wanna if I am remembering correctly, I believe it was like $15 a minute when we lived in Saudi Arabia.
Oh my
And so
gosh.
you aren't calling home to
Uh-uh.
chat with grandma and grandpa.
Uh-uh.
That's just not happening. If it's
Right.
an emergency situation, it's like, okay, yeah, I hear that. Bye.
Yep.
It's like real quick. And so
Right.
we don't so now it's much easier because we do have social media platforms. We have unlimited, cell phones in this. But yeah, it was a hard time in some ways because you didn't have those communications.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes I wish we still didn't
Yeah. Yeah.
in some areas of my life,
Uh-huh.
but
Yes.
it is what it is. So,
Some aspects social media is amazing, and in others it's the devil. But
right.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
I mean, when we lived in Germany, as like I said, I was first, second, I think I was first and second grade. I hated it. I hated leaving my grandparents. I hated going and seeing the castles. We went and saw where the Sound of Music was. We
Uh-huh.
saw the salt mines. Uh,
Right.
we actually saw Dachau, and as a first grader, or first and second grader, I don't remember how old I was, but that was impactful. We saw where Anne Frank was in Holland and all that kind of stuff. And I hated
Mhm.
it because I was like, this is so stupid. I want to be home playing with my toys. This is a waste of time, yada, yada, yada. And now that I'm in my 20s, I'm so thankful that
Hey, you didn't need to laugh. I was just gonna roll with it, girl.
that I was that I had that because not everybody gets those experiences, and I'm
Right.
so thankful and so blessed and so grateful that I did get the opportunity to visit that and see those things, and have those memories and meet the people I got to meet and have the friends I got to have and ride my bike the places I got to ride. It's just I mean, we went on Volts marches. I have tons of medals from doing those Volts marches and pins. I found the brochures, the advertisements for the Volts marches the other day, and just looking at those were the coolest things ever. I'm
Mhm.
just so thankful for that. So I don't want anybody thinking that we're dogging the country because we absolutely
No,
are
absolutely
not.
not. No, no, no. And I had a lot of the
Loved
same
it.
experiences. We went and we visited and took
Hmm.
vacations there, and I had the Arabic experience, obviously, and mm, you know, kind of on a separate or another end of the spectrum there in a country where their religion, runs their country and rules their country, and the laws are
Right,
made by how they believe.
right,
So it was a little bit different experience, but I did live in Europe. I lived in Switzerland and went to boarding school there when I was in high school. And so I do have that European experience as well of
right.
living in a country that's just so much beauty, so much history.
Absolutely.
It's just I wouldn't take anything for my experiences in my travel, like I said earlier. So,
Right.
but I it definitely made me realize what a wonderful free country we live in, though. Because no
Yes.
matter where you're going, you just don't have the freedoms that we have here.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
And those are things that I feel like in this day and age that we need to be celebrating instead of always thinking about the negative things that are going on. And I know sometimes that's hard to do, especially right now with everything that's going on.
Right.
But we still live in the United States of America, and it is a wonderful country.
Right. And right now we still have a lot of our freedoms. We really, really
Yeah, we
do.
still do. I mean, I know, things things are always going to evolve and they're going to change, and things have to keep up with what's going on. And
Hmm.
we have a long ways to go on some things. But there again, this is not a political thing. This is
Right.
simply about that regardless of what's going on, because of my experiences in other countries, I still love my country.
Exactly. I don't think I could. Other than I think I might could live in Germany. I don't know. about it now, I don't know. But yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. I mean, we are an amazing country. And, we were also stationed in Missouri and El Paso. And I could probably go ahead and let Mexico go ahead and take El Paso if it was my if it was
Uh-huh.
my decision. But still loved coming back to the United States. That's for sure.
Right.
So,
Oh, me too. Me too. There's just nothing like coming back to your home country
right,
for
right.
sure.
So, hooray, USA.
Go red, white, and
Yeah,
blue. But it
home
just kind
of,
of gives you a little bit of more information about us. Obviously, I lived in a lot more places than in the Middle East and in Europe, um, because we moved so frequently. But um, I don't have time to talk about that on this video. But we were stationed in a lot of different places as well in the United States, and really, with each place that you live, with each state that you live, you're feeling this. It is almost like a little bit of a different culture,
oh, it's totally different.
when you're
Yeah,
moving. I mean, obviously, you're still in the United States, but
yes,
it still has a different culture. Everybody kinda
absolutely.
beats to their own drum in each state. They have
Yes.
different things that they do. So, living up north, living south
Uh-huh.
on the coast, every state kinda has its little bit different things, but, yeah, I enjoyed all the places that we lived and the experiences that, I had. We both know it, that we are privileged to have grown up the way that we did, and had those experiences. So, um,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And let me tell you, I am so thankful to the men and women who serve today, yesterday, and in the future. If it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have this. I'm a
yes, for sure.
huge supporter of our troops, and I
Yes, we
think
both
they
are.
deserve nothing more than the utmost respect. My great grandfather was a belly gunner in World War II. My dad is a Vietnam veteran. My uncle and my grandpa both were in the National Guard.
Mhm.
So I know I'm missing family that
Right.
also
It's
served in the military. I can't think of.
yes. It's hard to remember because
Yeah.
there's so many. My family's the same. Uncles, cousins,
Yes.
grandparents on both sides, great grandparents that have all served in different branches of our military, and so we are both very deeply embedded with veterans in our families,
Right.
and we do know the sacrifices that we make, and we appreciate everyone for that. We appreciate
Absolutely.
every one of you. So, well, I think that we can kind of wrap this up. We've just kind of let you know a little bit more about us and our feelings on a few things, and it's been fun.
Yes.
It's been a good time, kind of just exploring these things, and we hope that everybody else maybe learned something or enjoyed the conversation. You can hit the like button or throw us a comment and let
Right.
us know what you're thinking, what your opinions are on this. And our next video will be on Friday,
Yes.
and that will be interesting as well. So we hope that you join in for that. It'll be at 7 p.m. Central Time. Don't forget that. And
Yay.
so we'll sign off for now, and we'll talk to you in a few days.
Great. Have a great
Uh
week.
huh. Bye bye.
Bye.